we're not producing enough content. So there's a shortage. So when I talk about content, I'm talking about good standard, good stories, original stories that I will be comfortable to go to Berlinale or Cannes or somewhere and say, here is an Ethiopian content that you can take. So the first challenge is, because of the lack of producers or the lack of substantial amount of investment into our industry, we're limited on taking Ethiopian content in the international market. You can see the market is saturated. There's huge competition. If you think about Asia, South Africa, West Africa, Latin America, they have a huge amount of funding compared to us.
Today Africa Podcast is a podcast series where we interview African entrepreneurs and professionals and share the stories behind their businesses. In each interview, we ask how they got started, how they grew, and how they run their business today. The stories are inspiring and also provide specific advice and insight into starting a business. By sharing these stories, we want to help others get started.
Welcome to another episode of Today Africa Podcast, where we sit with African entrepreneurs, business leaders, change makers, and professionals who are shaping the future of the continent. And don't forget to like, share, and comment on our content on social media, and head over to YouTube and subscribe to our channel at Today Africa Studios. Joining me today is Tigist Kebede. She's the operations manager and co-founder of Habeshaview. Tigist, you are welcome.
Thank you.
Tell us more about yourself. We know you as the operations manager and co-founder of Habeshaview, but I believe there's more to you than these two roles that we know you for.
Thank you so much for inviting me to come on to Today Africa. As you've introduced me, Tigist Kebede, one of the co-founder and also operations director for Habeshaview TV. Habeshaview is 10 years old this year, and it is a streaming platform similar to the other international platform that we are used to. Before I co-founded Habeshaview, I was in a different business of I have a teaching and law background, as well as a very long period of volunteering while raising a family. So that's sort of my introduction in a small nutshell.
What is the inspiration behind starting this streaming platform called Habeshaview?
So, like most diaspora, I was born in Ethiopia, but left Ethiopia quite a while ago and traveled in 50 different countries, lived in about 10 different countries. While traveling on my own with a family, I was very aware that there was very limited content specifically targeted to the market I'm looking at. So if I was looking to watch an Ethiopian film, the availability was very limited. When I say Ethiopian film, in terms of very good quality Ethiopian film, not those we find on sort of regular streaming platform that are available for free. So about 15 years ago, there was a group of us, similar to me, and diaspora from Ethiopian origin. We discussed about how do we actually source good quality, educational, entertaining, and also historical Ethiopian films. We were not able to find any of that. The three of us decided that we'll set up a business. Initially, it was more of a volunteering aspect. We invested, had the application built for the first 3 years. We actually provided the service for free. And then after 3 years, when the numbers were going up, as well as we wanted to be able to pay the creatives or want to start making new content that's actually very relevant to what our customers were looking for, we turned it into a business. So Habeshaview is now 10 years old, actually this year. I would like to say, we are organizing 10 different events throughout the year to mark that milestone, because it's not easy to be running a business starting from a small business to kind of celebrate 10 years. That was the idea behind it.
Congratulations on, let me say the word, on the 10th birthday of Habeshaview.
Thank you. And the team behind it as well, because there's a lot of people who are working behind the scene to celebrate the 10-year milestone for us.
Why the name Habeshaview? What's inspired you to zero down on the name Habeshaview?
For us, there is a sort of a history in Ethiopia that we like to name things with international names. And this is what I come across again and again, which actually irritates me, because we find that if we're calling it an African name, it might have some sort of solid background or it's got acceptability. I was one of the people who insisted that we have an Ethiopian touch name. Habesha means Ethiopian. View is to look at. So that it's very, very simple. We wanted it to sound Ethiopian predominantly because we are currently serving the Ethiopian community both at home in Ethiopia and globally. We wanted to be recognized as an Ethiopian brand, and that's why we've called it Habeshaview. Habesha is Ethiopian, and view is to watch. So Habesha, Ethiopians are watching, is sort of the direct translation for it.
You're in the business of representation. So what does it mean to put Ethiopian stories on the global stage?
So now you've asked my passion question. This is actually my favorite one because I get asked it both in a very positive manner and then also in the negative manner. Because if you think about Ethiopia, for those who are not familiar or they may have a different concept of Ethiopia. So it's the second largest population in Africa. So we have 127 million population, very large, just within Ethiopia. We have a very long history of storytelling. So in terms of storytelling in Ethiopia used to be from generation to generation, word of mouth, sort of stories being told verbally, not necessarily written. Those stories are very, very powerful because most of the time they will be based on the culture, our language, our history. As you know, Ethiopia has a very long history of, being there for a very long time. Even though sometimes we remember what happened 40 years ago, which is where the negative side comes into it, because some people don't move away from that image and assume Ethiopia in 2025 is what they saw in the images 40 years ago. So in terms of stories, we have some powerful, strong and original stories that can be told and made into blockbusters. So we're very fortunate to have the ability to have the distribution mechanism of the streaming platform to reach a larger audience. As I said earlier, Habeshaview works within Ethiopia with partners. We work to bring in international and Ethiopian content into Ethiopia. And then outside of Ethiopia, we predominantly concentrate on Ethiopian storytelling. So for us to get to festivals, for us to get to film festivals, events to showcase Ethiopian content internationally means not only the storytelling, but also the introduction to the culture, the language, and the country as well.
You are putting stories on the global stage, Ethiopian stories on the global stage. So how do people decide original content to produce or what to license or what to distribute?
In many ways, it's easy for us at the moment because not a huge amount of films are produced in Ethiopia, very limited at the moment because our industry, even though one of the oldest ones in the continent, we're still slightly behind, say, Nigeria, when you guys are, churning out, thousands of films. I have colleagues in Nigeria. I've got friends who tell, they laugh at me saying, we're bringing, 100 films a week and what are you doing? So we're still at the stage of, turning out low budget films. As you may know that, we don't have a huge amount of producers in Ethiopia. The film industry in Africa is actually one of the poorest in the world because we're dependent on ourselves to finance it. We don't have producers that are willing easily to produce. So at the moment, there's limited films being made. Predominantly about 75%, in our opinion, are not designed for the big screens, or they're not designed for festivals because they're just going straight into some of the free streaming platforms just because of budget. But at the moment, we're getting potentially one a month, very good film being produced. We start discussing with the creatives before at script level. This afternoon, I have a number of meetings after this to look at some scripts. So we get involved at script level. Initially, we used to only license after it was finished, after post-production, after completed, after it's done theatrical release. Now we're getting involved earlier so that either we can start producing with them or co-producing with them, or we can start advising in terms of how the film should be made, because sometimes our stories tend to be focused for a smaller market rather than the global market. We're also very much insistent on having international language subtitling, so that's how you can get the international market. The quality of the production is important. So we do a mixture of co-producing as well as licensing, predominantly licensing at the moment because we're still going through the motion of starting to produce and co-produce.
The question somebody will now be asking or want to find out is, what's then the difference between producing and licensing movies?
In our experience, when we are licensing, it's somebody else who's actually produced that content and they're coming to us. they'll come to us and say, I've got this content, we would like you to take it out for 2 years, 3 years, 6 months, whatever. So it's already done, so we actually take it to have it on our application or distributing it for them as well for a certain time. When we are producing or co-producing, we're involved in either the advisory or financing it, or actually working together with the creatives to finish that project they have. I also want to just quickly go back and say, Habeshaview, while we are a streaming platform, we're also an international distributor for Ethiopian-made films. That's also very important because we are distributing Ethiopian films to the global streaming platforms, in-flight entertainment, theatrical releases. So we're trying to push the Ethiopian content to get to the international market.
Let's talk about finance, because in Africa, we are limited with finance. So tell us how people raise funds, because like, if I heard you correctly, you said you will run Habeshaview for free for 3 good years. So before you will now monetize the platform. So how do people raise funds to start a business, and how people kept the business running for the 3 years that you will offer your services and your products for free?
I think we were very fortunate. I said, giving you the background of traveling and living abroad and partnering with 2 other Ethiopian origin, but North American nationals. The 3 of us were able to sit down and say, we need X amount of money to start the business. The 3 of us raised that money out of our own pocket. Again, I have to say we were very, very, very fortunate to be able to do that, because I know it's not easy for a lot of people to do that. So the 3 founders brought in the seed money. We started, the first thing we did was get the application built. It was a very basic model. 10 years ago, technology has moved on so much that we forget what it was like 10, 15 years ago. So 10 years ago, the first application we had built was very basic. It did VODs, it didn't do live stream, it didn't do audio, it didn't do all the extra brilliant things we have now. We were able to get that built. We had part-time workers, people who worked part-time with us. We then started buying Ethiopian content outright. Again, 10 years ago, it's much cheaper than it would have been. So we wanted to make sure that the filmmakers were compensated. So we bought the right to their films. Then we were able to provide that for free. Now, 3 years is a long time, but it did show us that there was a market. That there was a market for this kind of service. And then once we started thinking about making sure that people then pay to watch our content, we knew we had to upgrade the application to make it much more sleeker, easier to access, payment integration, security, all those. That's when we then brought 2 other partners. Also, we know them. So everybody, the 3 founders and 2 investors, we know them. So they came on board with the necessary investment. Again, I have to say we were very, very lucky. We're very fortunate to be in that position, not having to go out and look from, fundraising from outside source. So they came on board. Then we were able to then build a very robust, quite versatile application that then has all the payment integration for international payment. And then in Ethiopia, I don't know whether you're aware of this, in 2019, 2020s, when Telebir, then followed by M-Pesa and lots of other payment system came on board. Because in Ethiopia, before Telebir came, we were not, we weren't able to charge for services. People didn't have debit card or credit card that they use it. There was a company we were working on since 2017. They were the pioneer. I don't know where they are now, but we were trying to integrate payment system in Ethiopia for about 4 years, which was very, very difficult. So we were limited to only showing our content internationally, but not in Ethiopia. We had geo-blocked Ethiopia for quite a long time until we were able to make sure that we can get paid for the services that we were providing.
Let's talk about the challenges, because every business, every venture comes with its own challenges. So what challenges have people faced in bringing Ethiopian creative content to the world?
The first challenge we see is we're not producing enough content. So there's a shortage. So when I talk about content, I'm talking about good standard, good stories, original stories that I will be comfortable to go to Barinale or Khan or somewhere and say, here is an Ethiopian content that you can take. So the first challenge is because of the lack of producers or the lack of substantial amount of investment into our industry, we're limited on taking Ethiopian content in the international market. You can see the market is saturated. There's huge competition. If you think about Asia, South Africa, West Africa, Latin America, they have a huge amount of funding compared to us. So that's the first challenge. Secondly, our challenge is not for the lack of storytelling, the lack of talent. We have amazing, talented filmmakers here. We just need to support them so that we can get the best out of them. So that's one. Secondly, there is a misconception of Ethiopian films still being at a very infant stage. So if as a company, Habeshaview submits every year, we try to submit at least 1 or 2 films to international festivals. And it's quite painful because I know we're submitting them. Some of them I know they would not get selected, but I think it's important to keep submitting to a way that the judges and the jury realize there's actually this film coming from East Africa. So the feedback is always good. It tends to be the technical, it could be the storytelling, or sometimes the judges or the jury are not aware of the different storytelling that comes from Africa. So if they're not themselves experienced enough in a different storytelling from be it Africa, Latin America, Asia, whatever it is, they will tend to think about a particular group. So they tend to choose films from, I don't know, the North America or East Europe or whatever. So there is also that issue. So while we don't have enough films, but there's also the issue potentially from the jury who are not used or familiarized with that kind of storytelling. So that's the kind of 2 things we're facing. Thirdly, access to the Ethiopian filmmakers to have face-to-face experience, going to festivals easily, to be able to see how it's done. So Habeshaview, for the last 6 years, we've been running our own dedicated Ethiopian Film Festival in London. We started one in Malta and Washington, D.C. a few years ago. What we've been trying to do is take Ethiopian filmmakers to the international market. So we'll go to London, we'll go to Berlinale, Cannes, or somewhere like that, either sponsor them or take them with us. So they have the first-hand experience of how film festivals are run, how the red carpet looks, how a cinema could be full of cinema goers who are very passionate about it. So that experience sharing has allowed some of our filmmakers to come back to Ethiopia and say, make them ambitious, or say, right, we now need to make films this way, or we need to kind of tweak it in a way that it's actually appealing without changing the story, but appealing to an international, global market. I watch a lot of art house films. I watch a lot of films with subtitle, but that's something I love and enjoy. But not everybody wants to read a subtitle. So it's very important that we have exposure. So we are competing against a very large market, which has substantial investment in the industry as we speak. I don't know whether you know, one of the first films made in Ethiopia was in 1965. It's a very romantic film. 1965, and we were the first company to take it outside of Ethiopia to London. It's a very old film. It was digitalized, but very emotional because a lot of people were, it's sold out event. A lot of people came to watch it because they want to see what Ethiopia was or the filmmaking was in 1965. So, that's how farther back Ethiopia goes in making films. So the challenges are there. We are in a good position to break barriers with the support of lots of partners. But yes, I think in a very long way, I've explained to you how difficult it is.
You have worked with a lot of creatives, a lot of filmmakers. So are there specific stories of filmmakers you've discovered who surprised you the most or who broke the stereotype?
I said to you, we are a very young population in Ethiopia. Some of the young creatives are experimenting. So, the Ethiopian film used to be drama, romance, sort of things like that. But now they're experimenting with horror films, which is quite, new genre for Ethiopia because it's very difficult to pull off a good horror film with a small budget, because that's, a lot of that. We actually have one on Habeshaview at the moment, up and coming filmmaker, very talented. He's kind of based his story around the split personality. So it's quite an interesting one because you can see it from kind of the religious aspect of it, as well as from the modern side of, sort of double personality. So they're experimenting with that. We're seeing a lot more with animation. I was on a jury a few months ago, a technology company, that we're seeing a lot of animation, which is, obviously takes a lot of effort. So we're seeing that children program. And what is more interesting to me, even though it's not a new genre, is we're also seeing a lot of stories being told based on true events. So previously it's been fiction. In the last year, we've seen 3 or 4 films. 2 of them are with us. 2 of them are going to a festival in London. What's happening is people are actually telling the story from their own experience. Some of them are very painful because they might have domestic violence or something to do migration. Obviously, we all know now the migration story is very, very topical. So people are telling their own story as a way of educating other people, but also as a way of relieving themselves from the stress of what went through. So we're still not ahead in that kind of science fiction because we have too much original story to go into science fiction because we don't need to get there yet. But the horror genre is starting, films based on true events, and then the animation are the ones which are coming out very nicely from Ethiopia.
How do you ensure quality for your users in Ethiopia and your diaspora users who are with different internet connections?
Version of the application we have now, it's really brilliantly done. So because it's actually made with us, it's very important to keep updating it. So we currently, as such, we work within Ethiopia. So within Ethiopia, we work with Ethio Telecom, which is the largest telco company here, and Safaricom. So with them, working with them, the internet is getting better. In Ethiopia, the internet is getting better. It's getting very cheaper than it was before, accessible. A lot of people have Wi-Fi at home or data bundles. And then internationally, of course, we don't have to worry so much because people have access to it. The application itself has ABR. So depending on what your internet connection is or the quality of your device, it changes the streaming. So it changes from, say, 4K to HD or SD. So automatically it dictates your internet strength and then reduces the quality of the how you watch your film. So that's already on the application, which be able to dictate that. So both for the quality of your device, whether it's a very low budget smartphone or a high budget smartphone. So it kind of dictates that to show you at the best quality that your device is, as well as the internet you have available. So we have that ABR automatically put in, so it dictates also automatically to reduce it or to bring it up. That's one of that. We're also in talks with both the telcos in Ethiopia to give us a data bundle so that it actually works only with Habeshaview films. So just to give you a bit of a background, in Ethiopia we have a daily package, monthly package, and pay-per-view. So our most popular one is pay-per-view. So people come in and watch a film for 1 hour 45 or 2 hours. We are putting a data package together with that, so people are watching it with the best quality data they can have, the best quality internet they can have. And Habeshaview is available on any internet connected device as well. So they might have a tablet or a PC or a smart TV. So it just depends what they use. But to avoid compromising the quality, we try and make sure that they can watch it at the best available internet they have on their device.
Like you already mentioned, you are into original content, licensing, distributing, and equally, co-producing. What are the most sustainable revenue stream so far for your business?
Internationally, it's very well known to have a subscription. So outside of Ethiopia, we don't have, it's very, people tend to have, sort of Amazon Prime or Netflix or Apple or one of those paid subscriptions. So we don't seem to have an issue with that. People are quite happy to subscribe to our pay-per-view monthly or yearly. So that's quite a good way of having a regular income. Within Ethiopia, again, there is I think it's probably predominantly in Africa as well, not only Ethiopia, in Africa as well, there is kind of the feeling of not wanting to pay for content because there's so much available for free. And so, this is my argument, saying if we want the industry, the film industry, to grow in Africa, we have to be able to pay and consume that content. So that filmmaker is not going to make you a film because, it's his hobby or her hobby. It's actually a business for them. So we are trying to change minds by saying, you can have a cup of coffee, maybe, a juice or whatever for the same price as paying to watch a film. And that's kind of the education we have to install in people to say paying to watch is actually a responsibility. So that's what we've been trying to do. And that's also why in our package in Ethiopia, we have the daily and the pay-per-view to give people a taste of the application. So they come and watch a film and then they can leave. They don't have to subscribe and be tied for monthly or yearly. So that's what we are trying to do. We're very pleased to see that a lot of people now used to it. There is a mindset also within the Ethiopian community thinking, if I can't find that film somewhere else, I only find it in Habeshaview, I must pay to watch it. One of the things also in Africa, we forget, we are 1.4 billion and growing. We could be the actual market for our own content. We don't need to look for North America. We don't need to look to Europe. There's enough of us within Africa to be able to sustain the film industry. We just have to be willing to pay, I don't know, 20 cents or 30. I know not everybody could afford it, and I have to be very, very clear on this, but those who could afford it should be paying to watch content. So they are actually supporting the industry. I think this as well from Nigeria, Kenya, and in Ethiopia. The film industry supports a huge number of people. When you make a film, there are maybe 400 people participating. Those 400 people might have family. So, we're talking about maybe 1,000 people being supported. And that's sort of short term. They might work for a month, but nothing else. So we have to remember that it's actually a big business that people have to make money to sustain the industry. So for us, the daily payment or the pay-per-view payment works very well for us. We also partner with, I don't know if I said to you earlier that, we work with Telecom, Safaricom. We also work with airlines. So we provide their in-flight entertainment. We also work with hotels. So we provide Ethiopian film content to international brands. So we are getting revenue streams from various aspects that sustains our business. We're also at the moment partnering with some brands who want to come on board. Surviving 10 years or milestone of 10 years means that partners are coming to us themselves to say, how can we work with Habeshaview? We're not going out to them, but they are coming to us as well now. And we have to be very, very careful that who we choose to partner with. Because as I said to you, building a brand, working very hard to get to the stage, and then partner with a wrong partner could backfire as well. So we're very, very careful. So those are the multiple revenue streams that we are getting.
But how do you ensure that these new monetization strategies meet the evolving needs of your consumers?
Going back, one of the big, our plan, the next 5 years, 10 to us, one plans is to have a full production in-house, because we will then be self-sufficient, we'll be able to tell the stories, we'll be able to budget very carefully, because I think when you're outsourcing certain projects, they tend to cost you more. At the moment, we're working with multiple studios and production houses and partners within Ethiopia, so they can provide that content for us. But in terms of reaching the market, because as the market is growing, there's also a tendency to move away from international content to homegrown one, which we are noticing as well, that we need to be able to produce quicker, at quality, and at reasonable cost. So that's one plan. Secondly, we're reaching out to other African countries who have content. For example, we've got some Sudanese content, we've got some Kenyan content, we've got some Nigerian content. So we're trying to reach out to those other countries and saying, please bring us your content, so that we'll actually, our library grows. So it doesn't necessarily have to be Ethiopian. As I said, within Ethiopia, we have international content. We have films, documentaries and news and things like that. But the library has to grow with the need of people, with the need of the customer. Subscribers, again, there's a huge choice. For example, I subscribe to a lot of the streaming platforms because I need to know what's going on. I'm watching what's going on. Some of them are adding content daily, others are adding monthly. So I look at that and say what works and what doesn't work, so that we can actually learn from those experiences. But we need here to produce more. We need to produce more, but good quality that people are happy to pay for. So when I say people don't pay, I mean, they might not think it's worth it. Sometimes we have to also look at that. Somebody might say to you, I want to pay $1 for, a blockbuster film from international because I believe it's worth that. They might look at us and say, well, I don't think it's worth it for an African film or an Ethiopian film. They are within their right. So we have to be able, as a company, we have to be able to provide them with that quality content that they feel they can part with their money and they're happy after the 2 hours. So, we mustn't also blame the people who don't pay, because if we don't provide them good quality, they might do that. So that's that. And then the next thing is, how do we bring in enough money so that we can actually pay the creators? Because at the end of the day, for us as a company, the capital investment is there, which is not a problem. But the filmmakers, the creators have to be paid, because what they want to do is they want to be able to then go to the next stage and make more films, so that the money is rotating. It keeps going back and forth. So that's also one of the things that we are trying to balance. The subscription fee. Sometimes we have films which are very, very popular, that people watch them. Huge amount of money comes in. That's one. There are others which tend not to be popular for whatever reason, and you just have to try and find a way that all the creatives can be compensated for the work they've done.
So how do you then balance paying this creative fairly and equally making the platform affordable for the users?
As I said, within Ethiopia, we are charging, the price model we have in Ethiopia is different to internationally. So internationally, we might charge from $399 per view to $9.99 or $15.99, depending on the film. So this is USD. In Ethiopia, we charge from 75 birr, I don't know what that is in cents, or 100 birr, which is, maybe 75 cent. So we're making it much more 75 USD cent. So we try to make it affordable. From what we're earning, we're very fair with the creatives. When we started, I said to you, we used to buy all the royalty. So we used to buy outright the films. But we decided not to do that, because we're also trying to educate the creatives by saying you should always keep the IP of your film. You should always have the right to your film. Don't just hand it over to somebody like us or anybody else, because after 2 years or 3 years, you should have it back so you can do something with it. There is still a tendency in Ethiopia for people to just want to sell you outright the IP, because they don't want to be bothered with it. They just want to say, pay for it, take it. I don't want to know anything about it, because they're afraid that it might be stolen. They're afraid that they might get money or something like that. We try to avoid that, because we have to work ethically. We have to learn how it's done internationally and what works for the creative. So we tend not to, limited cases, we buy the full right. Otherwise, we work on a revenue share model, or we give them a minimum guarantee, depending on how it is and how popular the film is, or what it works. We work on those three modalities, but it's all tailored to individual filmmakers, because it's not everybody, it doesn't work for everybody. So we do that. The minimum guarantee, always very, very happy, especially if we pay them up front. That's something they like. But it's not always appropriate for everybody.
We have talked about revenue, movies, challenges. So what's the role of Habeshaview in preserving and promoting Ethiopian cultural heritage?
That's $1 million question. But I think in a very small way, I feel that we are contributing to the tourism, the culture, the language introduction of our country. How many times have we seen a film that we may never been to that country? For example, if you've never been to New York, the Americans, as I said earlier, are very good at promoting their country. So you'll see, bright lights or the yellow cups and things like that. Even if you've never been to New York, or London is a good one as well. Even if you've never been to New York or London, you feel that because you know the landmarks. When you see Big Ben, you think, oh, I know where that is. When you see certain places. So film has a very powerful message. So, it would introduce you to a country. It makes you want to go to New Zealand. For example, I have never been to New Zealand because it's just too far away to go. But after watching Lord of the Rings, I thought, oh, it would be brilliant. I would like to go and see it. I don't think I will. It's just too far. I've been to Australia and other places. But the fact that, a country which you've never been to makes you interested to go and visit. So the film and the culture it makes people want to go and visit. We were in Malta in October last year. Habeshaview started the first African Film Festival in Malta. Malta is a tiny country, but it's where a lot of films are made. So when we were there, we were visiting the studios. That's where Titanic was made, and you think, oh my goodness, you feel like you know the place because you've seen it on film. So the same for Ethiopia. I think by producing more films, which shows the countryside, our language, our culture, I think it draws attention to the country for tourists, investors, anybody to come and visit. I think that's kind of in a small way, that's what we're trying to do. At the beginning of our conversation, I mentioned that we're only interested in original, good quality content because we're not interested in a translation of Nollywood or Hollywood, because there are films that people either knowingly or unknowingly recreate, they copy from something they've seen before, but it's just translated in Amharic. It doesn't work for us. I think we want something original because we have enough stories to tell. So in a way, by not only producing or actually carrying the produced films to an international market, bearing in mind we don't only have Ethiopians watching our content, we have other nationalities. It will give them a window into Ethiopia, the culture, the country, the heritage, the language, in a way that they might be interested to come and visit as a tourist, come to invest, come and do, that's the kind of thing we are looking at. And then going to the festivals as well. In London, again, we're doing it middle of October. We tend to have 20-30% of our customers are non-Ethiopian origin. So it's a good way of they come into a cinema, where you've seen a Hollywood blockbuster, there's an Ethiopian film. It's in a cinema. So people pay for the tickets and they come in and they see a culture that maybe they were not aware of, or maybe they have an idea what Ethiopia was like, and they see this and they are then converted. They might think, oh, okay, this is not something I knew. But it's a positive image. Obviously, there's a negative image of everything as well, but we try to show the positive image as well as the culture at the same time.
People are in the business of preserving the cultural heritage, but I still believe that there are still, some misconceptions about Ethiopia that people have. So what's one major misconception that people have about Ethiopia that Habeshaview is trying to change?
For example, if I go back, and I dislike saying this, 40 years ago, everybody saw the BBC documentary. Everybody listened to the music, Bob Geldof's music and things like that. There are some people who still think Ethiopia and generally Africa has not grown. We don't have a fabulous building. We don't have coffee shops or five-star hotels. Or we live in trees. Maybe, I don't know. The idea is by showing, I'm not only talking about Ethiopia, but I think it's showing it for the whole of Africa, that actually when we are filming, you see this five-star hotel, or you've seen, our culture, which is older than some of these countries in the world, that we have, we have alphabets and, things like that, which are thousands of years old. I think it's kind of, for those who want to know, it changes their mind about the concept they have that Ethiopia, yes, we're not a rich country, but we're up and coming. We are, we are learning, and it's growing and it's changing like any African country. But it shows that, we have a youth population. There are highly educated people. Things work. So these are the kind of things we want to do that, and not everything you see. The other thing is also when you look at North America and all the refugee crisis, and not everybody, I think, is very important. Not everybody in Africa wants to go to North America. Not everybody in Africa or in Ethiopia want to go and be a refugee in Europe. I think this is very, very important that there is a different side to that culture and country than portrayed by the media we see. I mean, I live in the UK. I've lived there for many, many years, and I see how the media works and how it can be easily manipulated to show one side. Of course, there is a crisis. There is an immigration crisis all over the world. There are economical and political crises that we know about. But to an extent, to have it manipulated to show just one side of a story is not beneficial for everybody. I think also, as an Ethiopian and Africans, we should be able to tell our own story. We should be the ones with the narrative. We shouldn't allow someone else who comes and tells our story, because they can't understand it as well as we do. And that's also why we need a lot of investment in the film industry, so that we can comfortably tell the story. I am hesitant to go into getting funding for films, because any funding which comes attached to The arts and culture always has a reason to it. That's why we need proper producers, investors who have an interest in the industry, not a particular agency or organization which wants to send a particular message. So in a roundabout way, we have to be able to tell our own story in our own words, in our own, with our own time, so that we can pass on the message correctly and properly. And if we don't, then it's only us to blame.
Now let's talk about the marketing strategies that Habeshaview used. Like you said, all of you were outside the country, then decided to build a platform that will bring Ethiopian content to the global stage. So how do you penetrate the market with what were the marketing strategies that you use in the beginning to attract users to the platform?
At the beginning, it was very much almost, we want to watch this house. Our friends want to watch, our children want to watch us. So that's how it was done. So it was word of mouth because it was one of the few platforms. It was easy. It was free. So we had a lot of people coming to watch it. And then, as I said, when then we revamped the application, more investment had gone into it. We have an office in Ethiopia. We opened an office here in 2018, I think. And then we have an office in the US and also in London. So what we decided to do was that actually we will go into a very slow marketing, slow start, because we want to test the application. We want to test the market. We do a lot of digital advertising, digital marketing. We have a dedicated team of people who work within the communities in North America. So, for example, in Washington, D.C., we have over 600,000 Ethiopians. So we work with them in sort of, it's more like what they call guerrilla marketing. So it's not, hugely digital. Word of mouth is very important for us. Every time we have a film, there's a premiere for it. There is an event, all kind of advertising go with it. Our festivals we organized help because they become, they become the place to go to. So, for example, in London last year, we had 1,040 people attend over 3 days. So it's become a sought-after event. And the word of mouth, the kind of digital marketing, we knew there was a huge number of Ethiopians and also other nationalities. I don't want to necessarily our films are only watched by Ethiopians, but there's a lot of people who want to watch alternative content. They don't want to watch a Hollywood film anymore, or they're fed up with watching something again and again, or it's being repeated. So those markets are there. We did a lot of research, as I said to you beforehand, but most of the time it's come through by trial and error. We kind of choose a particular film and we realize maybe that doesn't do well. We do, the marketing team manages all that. But we are now at the stage that when you think about Ethiopian film, Habeshaview comes in mind. So that's kind of where we are. The name also helps, I think, Habesha, Ethiopian. So it's got, if I'd called it, I don't know, ABC or whatever, it could be anything. It could be a print shop. So I think having that name, which stands out, our logo, and our kind of, continuously delivering for the last 10 years, we've realized the last 5 years have been absolutely fantastic because suddenly, the trust is there. The filmmakers trust us. The customers trust us because they know when they pay to watch something, they're going to get good quality. That has been selected by one of us. All the films on Habeshaview, one person from our company would have watched it. They would have gone to the premiere. Oh, they would have watched it. We don't just get it for the sake of, we recognize the actor. That doesn't work for us because some actors are on so many films that they don't even know they're in it. So we make sure every single film we have, every single content we have is being watched and approved and passed on.
Where do you see Habeshaview in the next 5 years?
Technology is an interesting one. As we speak, there are more things being added to it. So continuously working, updating it because we need to keep up to date with what's going on. I see us producing major films in Ethiopia. I mean, I'm sorry, we're not going to expand to the African market unless it's an Ethiopian story, mainly because the market we're looking at is that. We're looking at collaborating with other filmmakers. taking our films to international big stages, continue to do that, have some of our films selected, shortlisted, maybe winning awards. Those are the kind of things our aim is, because we've done the hard work, we've done the basic, we've got the staff, we've got the team on the ground, we've got the application. What next? You have to reach for the skies. So for us, it's to support our filmmakers to keep producing good and better quality films, to change the minds and hearts of people to say paying to watch a film instead of having 2 cups of coffee is actually beneficial because you're supporting the industry. Because that's the thing, I go to restaurants and I see people indulging, but some of the people are the ones who say to me, "Oh, I don't want to pay for Ethiopian film." I'm like, why not? There's that misconception. So we need to change the hearts and minds of people, that as they are going to watch an international film at cinema, they have to go and watch an Ethiopian film as well. Again, I want to make it clear that Habeshaview is not competing with the cinemas. This is also another misconception, because there is the idea that streaming platforms actually compete against cinemas. We support cinemas. We actually like films going to a theatrical release in cinemas before they come to us, because that's how it should be. However, there are also markets whereby those films come straight to Habeshaview. They come straight into a streaming platform. We see that's what happens, because it reaches a much more global audience. It reaches a target. So for us, yes, continue what we're doing, update our application. Security is a big issue, because again, for some reason, we feel it's absolutely fine to steal somebody's film, it's theft, or pirate somebody's film and share it, because we think we're very clever. It's not clever, it's actually stealing. That's another issue as well, detrimental to the African and Asian film market, is the acceptability of pirating films, downloading them, selling them. I don't actually blame the person who steals them. I think I blame the people who share them, or actually take it from somebody and pay for that pirated terrible quality, rather than pay. There's no excuse. There's no excuse. They can go to the cinema, they can watch it on an application like ours. It's not as if previously when there was no access. But the concept of stealing somebody's film is theft, and that doesn't seem to register with quite a few people. So we try to work, behind the scenes. We try to do a lot against that. At the same time, producing, supporting our filmmakers, working with them. We have to partner with them.
What lesson have you learned in your journey as an entrepreneur, your 10 years journey?
I think when you're an entrepreneur, it teaches you lots of lessons. I think, for example, for me, I was making decision with my heart rather than my head. And that's not a good one, because I might like a project. For example, some person will come and pitch a brilliant script because they're very passionate about it. So I would go with the flow, because thinking, that person is so passionate about it, so we must produce it. And then you will end up, either the person doesn't have experience, they can't deliver, they're over budget. There are lots of things that goes with it. So sadly, I have learned to say no more than say yes, because I have to start thinking from the business aspect of it, because we realize that we're not a charity. I'm not running a charity. I'm no longer running a charity. So it's become a business. So that was kind of the hardest thing, to say no, even though when the project sounds brilliant, to choose the people, to choose the advice. We're very, very fortunate to have multiple advisors who are very, very good and experienced, but to also choose the advice I take on board, not taking every advice I hear as being helpful to myself or to the company. Because I think the first time I realized the person who's advising us had an alternative motive was a shock, because I think it's not being naive, it's just being a very trusting person, thinking you've got people around you who are supposed to be advising you for the betterment of the company, but not always that. And I'm still very transparent. I still very openly discuss what we're doing, as we're doing now. I don't have any agenda, but coming across industries similar to ours, and there's kind of the alternative motive, the reason they're coming to you has a different reason. I have no issue with, and then it's kind of it's underhand. I find the businesses some businesses are underhand. This is more so. And I think those are the kind of things I'm thinking, okay, I don't want to be suspicious, but I think I need to be more careful about how much support I'm giving somebody or advice. I mentor quite a few young people to go into business, and I would like them to be on a very honest, straightforward, and transparent way, rather than having this ulterior motive or a different thing. Because in the long term, in my opinion, the transparency, sharing information, working together, collaborating, pays off than being individual. That's kind of my feeling. And initially as well, because I said to you that I've lived outside for 34 years. When I first came, I think everything was new. My transparency, very openness was seen as that people could take advantage of me, because that's the idea as well. They thought I was very naive. I wasn't naive. I just wanted to test the market, see how it is. But, you learn all those things from that. I said saying no more than yes, being very, very careful who we work with. And I'm using my gut feeling more. If it's too good to be true, the old saying. And those are the kind of things. And being careful what I share now, which I don't like, but I'm not, as openly sharing everything that we are doing, because it is not beneficial to the company.
Tell us more about your collaboration with Afro Film Alliance and what you plan to achieve with this collaboration.
Earlier, we're collaborating a lot more. The whole idea is bringing the film industry into the international market. So with Afro Film Alliance, we got involved with them last year. We were introduced to the CEO, Lexi, by a mutual friend. And then last year, we participated in a very small model. So we run in the economic, in the ECA, we run the workshop to bring in international Ethiopian filmmakers to have a workshop together. We did a panel discussion and then a short screening of short films. So last year was just sort of our test. This year, building on what we want to do, we're running similar things. We have got Afro Film Alliance is one component of the event, which is running from the 5th to the 10th of November this year. So our event starts with the opening session at the ECA, and then in the afternoon, we're actually running a workshop for the Ethiopian filmmakers from budgeting, production, script writing. So we've got multiple talented people running workshop in the afternoon. And then in the evening was a red carpet reception to screen the selected 10 short films. At the moment, I think we've sent a call out for short films from any African or African origin diaspora to submit to be selected for the festival. So out of all those submitted, I'm not part of the selection process, but somebody else will do it. So they will select them, and then there will be 10 chosen short films chosen to be screened on the night of the 5th of November. And then the winner will have all expenses paid to come to Ethiopia next year to attend the event. So, we're in the forefront. So, Habeshaview is in the forefront of distribution, promoting film festival. We are doing this, real events. We are running this day to day, year to year. Because of that, they've contacted us and said, would we like to partner with them? So that's what we're doing. It's very exciting. This year I said to 10 events. So we've got, first event is we have an award ceremony for some of our filmmakers, which is going to be run in October. We have the Ethiopian Film Festival in London, 17, 18, 19th of October, Afro Film Alliance in November, and then Malta Film Festival in December. We kind of the whole year is taken up with a lot of events. So I'm afraid my team are worn out from organizing these events. But it's very exciting. And then the Afro Film Alliance will be a yearly event, again, concentrating on short films, but involving the whole of the African filmmakers.
What advice would you give to others who are just starting their business or who are just new in business, more especially women?
I would say do your research. Do your research carefully. Do the research firsthand yourself. Talk to people you admire, or you see the business there. If it's a business if you know the person who runs similar business, have a conversation with them. Be honest and transparent. Say if you don't know, say you don't know. Always ask questions, because again, I come across people who are a bit embarrassed or they're very shy. So instead of coming forward and asking a question, they're sort of in the background, especially women. I noticed that. It's very, very important to be in the front and asking the questions. If you don't know, say, you don't know, can you explain to me? Because people want to give you time, but do the research carefully. Be prepared. When you're attending any meetings, or if you are pitching your business, assume that the person who's listening does not know anything about it, because there is a misconception that somebody might have a conversation with you, and when they meet you the next time, they start off where they left off the last conversation, but that person might not remember. So you have to make sure that every time you meet somebody, you start from scratch. Don't bore them, but make sure that you've got your pitch ready to talk about your business in a way it is interesting and relevant, because the person might not know anything about it.
Today Africa Podcast is a podcast series where we interview African entrepreneurs and professionals and share the stories behind their businesses. In each interview, we asked how they got started, how they grew, and how they run their business today. The stories are inspiring and also provide specific advice and insight into starting a business. By sharing these stories, we want to help others get started.